Coming up on Fulton at Work, Fulton takes over the responsibilities for regulating body art establishments and artists operating in the county. Also, the Board of Commissioners passed two key items aimed at keeping the Big Creek Water Reclamation Facility expansion project on track. And residents from various communities across the county come together to celebrate the reopening of their local library. It all starts right now on Fulton at Work. Welcome to Fulton at Work. I'm Darrell Carver. Fulton's Environmental Health Division of the Board of Health is now responsible for regulating body art establishments and artists in the county. So what exactly does that now mean? Ellis Eli Jones is the Deputy Director over Environmental Health, and he joins us to answer that question and much more. First of all, thank you for joining us here on Fulton at Work.
Thank you for having me.
So when did all this happen, and who decided in Fulton County's Environmental Health Services Division will be the ones handling this regulation?
The process actually started many years ago, and it's been in development with several revisions of the body art rules and regulations that Fulton County Environmental Health developed. Then July the 25th of 2018, the Board of Health approved the rules and regulations that were submitted to them. And then for the last year has been a grace period for all establishments that are already in business and artists who already perform the art to come into compliance of the rules and regulations.
And if you could, please explain to everyone how you define body art establishments.
Body art establishment is any facility that is permanent that offers any type of body art establishment services. That can be tattoos, piercings, or even microblading.
And as they relate to these regulations, what ages apply?
To be a body artist, you must be 18 years or older, and it's someone that is performing tattoos and or piercings and or microblading.
And what do they have to do to get licensed?
To be a body artist, first you have to submit an application. With the application, you have to provide a bloodborne pathogen class that you've passed. You also have to provide a certification of basic CPR, first aid. You also, on top of that, have to provide that you've had the hepatitis B shot, or you provide the hepatitis B decline letter. Then you would need a letter from your physician stating that you have had all the proper shots for any type of communicable diseases and that you do not have them. Then, of course, you'd have to submit your fees upon your application and all the paperwork that I stated.
Also, are all facilities required to have a cleaning room, even if the facility is 100% disposable?
Yes, even if a facility is 100% disposable, they still have to have the minimum requirements of the Fulton County Environmental Health and Board of Health's body art rules and regulations. So they would also have to have the smallest enclave available just in case they ever had to clean anything.
And is each individual artist required to have a license with the Fulton County Board of Health?
Yes, each artist has to have their own individual to be able to perform any type of body art in any studio that's permitted.
And what happens if a facility or artist is found to be operating without a license?
If the facility is operating without a valid permit, then they will be issued a court citation. Now, if an artist is found performing any type of body art procedure, whether they're in a licensed permitted facility or outside of one, they would also receive a court citation and have to come before a judge.
And if you could, please share any final thoughts on this issue with us, please.
It was much needed, and if you're an individual that's going to get any type of body art procedure, whether it's a tattoo, piercing, or microblading, first thing you should do is check to see if they're permitted. Make sure that the artist is permitted before you get the procedure. If you're an individual that owns a shop, you definitely have to have a permit. If you're an individual who wants to be an artist, you have to have a license to operate and do any type of work inside a permitted facility in Fulton County.
Eli Jones, thank you always for the great information, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, my pleasure.
You can get more details on this regulation by visiting the Environmental Health Services page on the Fulton County Board of Health website. And in other environmental health news, Fulton County leaders and Chief Medical Examiner welcomed Emmys from across the world as they convened for their annual conference. 2019 marked the first time this conference was held right here in our own backyard. Inside the Georgia Aquarium, medical examiners from around the globe gathered for the 4th annual conference in forensic and pediatric pathology. The Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office hosted the meeting in conjunction with the GBI, the University of Ottawa, and the Eastern Ontario Regional Laboratory Association.
The collaboration and the networking with the other pathologists, pediatricians, investigators from the state and, like I said, across the country and abroad is fantastic because there's not that many of us and the community is small, and to be able to pick up the phone and reach out because they may have seen something that we haven't seen and vice versa.
The theme of this year's 3-day conference was Seldom Say Never, Seldom Say Always, a look at exceptional cases.
So it's actually a play on an old forensic adage with respect to the types of cases that we see. We are taught not to be dogmatic. So seldom say that this will never happen, or seldom say that it will always happen, because there will always be some exception to the rule.
Some of the topics of conversation include child abuse deaths and how to approach unnatural or unusual circumstances. These professionals know their diagnosis impacts a number of people, including the family of the victim and the accused.
We need to get the answer right. If we get the answer wrong, it could have dire consequences, whether it be someone who did something got away with it or someone who didn't do something was falsely accused.
This year marks the first time the Forensic and Pediatric Pathology Conference was held in the United States. For many of the medical professionals in attendance, this was their first visit to Atlanta. They all agreed that the famous Southern hospitality lived up to its reputation, thanks to Fulton's medical examiner and her hosting partners. Now, when we come back, we'll get an update on the progress of the Big Creek Water Facility Expansion Project. So please stay with us. Welcome back to Fulton at Work. During their July 2019 meeting, the Fulton County Board of Commissioners passed 2 items that are key in the progression of the Big Creek Water Reclamation Facility Expansion Project. Joining us now to explain why and provide an overall expansion update is Public Works Director David Clark. First of all, welcome back here to Fulton at Work.
Hi, Daryl. Thanks for having me.
If you could, please remind our viewers about where the Big Creek Water Reclamation Facility is actually located and the area that it serves.
The Big Creek facility is our largest wastewater treatment facility, and it's located in North Fulton County, near where Willio Creek enters the Chattahoochee River at the far western portion of Roswell. It serves most of Roswell, most of Alpharetta, and a small western portion of Johns Creek.
If you could give us some details now about the items that the BOC passed in July that will help move the plant a little bit closer to completion.
Yes, we had 2 major hurdles crossed at our July Board of Commissioner meeting. The first was we hired a consultant who is going to be doing the construction management along with our staff. The size of the project is too large for just Fulton County Public Works staff to be on site and monitoring everything that's going to be going on over the next 3 or 3.5 years. So we actually hired a firm called by the name of Gresham Smith, who is also going to supplement their staff with our staff. We're still in charge of the project. Fulton County still is in charge of the contract or the project, but this contract allows us to utilize some additional staff during some key points of the construction when our staff might be stretched a little thin. The second contract that was approved by the board in July was the first phase of construction. We've decided to break the project into 2 phases of construction. The first phase is what's going to get started here this fall, where the contractor will be grading the site and preparing the site to actually start building the project from. The site right now is partially tree covered. It has a lot of debris from past projects that were stored there. All that needs to be removed, and we're going to create a very nice level surface for when the building starts construction next spring. It will start from that point and hopefully go a little bit faster.
And why are these moves crucial to the overall expansion of the plant?
Well, as I said, with the construction management consultant help, that's really important because we can't do all the work, unfortunately, ourselves. Our staff is just, the number of our staff is just too small to be able to be on such a large project all the time that's going to be required. So it's going to help us supplement our staff's needs with the consultants to monitor the contractor. And then the contractor who's actually doing the work, it's important for us to utilize the fall to do earth moving activity on the site, because traditionally the fall is our driest time, and so our concerns with soil erosion and the number of work days are usually less in the fall as it is in the winter or the spring in particular.
Now, if you could talk about who will be doing the actual work on these projects.
The contractor is a joint venture by the name of Archer Western and Brown and Caldwell. Archer Western is the construction arm of the team, and Brown and Caldwell is the engineer. So the actual construction is going to be mostly done by Archer Western staff or their subs that they hire. The consultants that we hired to help us with the construction management portion is a firm by the name of Gresham Smith, and they've been very instrumental in assisting Fulton County Public Works staff during the design of the project. Brown and Caldwell, as part of the joint venture, is the one who's actually designing it, but as they finish elements for our review, our staff reviews it, but we also have brought Gresham Smith in to help us review some of the more technical areas of the project. So therefore, we have a team that is very familiar with Big Creek, and we're ready to hit the ground running.
Now, from what I understand, during the expansion process, there's been some concerns expressed by residents in the area. What's being done to really address a lot of those community issues?
The existing wastewater facility at Big Creek is a conventional system that uses exclusively biological methods to clean the wastewater before we return it back to the Chattahoochee River. Unfortunately, as part of that process, there is some noise and odor that the biological process creates that has impacted the surrounding neighborhoods. So one of the key elements of this design for the expansion of the project, we wanted to make sure we address those two areas. And so as part of this project, we are including a very comprehensive odor control plan that will capture all the odors that is associated with the wastewater plants. But more importantly, the entire plant will be covered. If you go out there today, elements of the wastewater treatment process is not covered, and so the odors can easily escape into the atmosphere and drift over to the neighborhoods. With it being completely covered in a building type of environments, all that is going to be so much easier captured and treated before it's released to the atmosphere. Also, because the entire plant is going to be covered in buildings, the noise is going to be extremely less because we've been able to muffle the sound through a variety of building designs and materials that we're using to actually capture the noise so it doesn't escape into the neighborhoods either.
And please remind our viewers how expansion will be beneficial to the residents.
The benefits to the residents is really going to be seen twofold. The first one is by increasing it to 38 million gallons a day, we are going to be able to continue to treat the wastewater that we're expected to come from the development and the redevelopments of the area. But more importantly, because we're using membrane technology on this plant, the actual environmental impact to the wastewater is going to be extremely less. The water that we return to the Chattahoochee after a membrane treatment process is considerably cleaner than the water that we actually pull out of the Chattahoochee for drinking water purposes. So the high quality standard that we started at the Johns Creek facility is going to be duplicated here at the Big Creek facility. And I think that is more than anything the greatest benefit that the residents who use the Chattahoochee are going to see once the project gets built here in about 3 years.
If you could, please share any final thoughts with us.
Only that as always with construction, there's going to be some hiccups along the way, but we got a good team in place that they're going to get through it, I think, pretty fast and painlessly as possible. Also, at the same time, we've been working very closely with the city of Roswell, so they are very aware of our plans, as well as we've been having a number of public meetings with neighborhoods who abut the Big Creek facility, so they understand what's going on, and hopefully we're being proactive to hear their concerns before they actually escalate to larger problems.
David Clark, thank you again for joining us here on Fulton at Work.
Thanks for having me today.
Now when we come back, PR and Marketing Manager for the Fulton County Library System, Claudia Strange, will give us a renovation update and explain what's next after all the libraries have reopened. So please, stay with us. Welcome back to Fulton at Work. I'm Darrell Carver. From the Sandy Springs Library to the Kirkwood Library, county branches that were once closed are now reopened after undergoing massive renovations. In some cases, libraries have also been renamed. Joining us now to talk about that and more is the PR and Marketing Manager for the Fulton County Library System, Claudia Strange. First of all, thank you for your time and welcome back here to Fulton at Work.
Thank you for having me, Darrell.
Please remind our viewers about the library renovation plan and why it was necessary.
The library renovation project is actually part of a larger project that's been going on for about 10 years here at the Fulton County Library System. And it saw in the first phase the creation of 8 new libraries throughout the county, as well as the expansion and renovation of 2. Right now we're in the second phase, which is basically bringing all the rest of our libraries up to the same standards as those new libraries, modernizing things like technology, upgrading systems, everything from our mechanical systems to our bookshelves. So it's just a process of kind of getting everybody up to the same standard.
Now, there have been several grand openings of renovated libraries in 2019. What's been the overall response from patrons attending those grand openings?
Well, each of the openings have been unique and exciting for the neighborhood in which they were opening. Overall, though, it's just been a packed house with a ton of excitement, people really eager to get back into their libraries. I mean, some of these branches were closed for as much as 10 months. So for the neighborhoods in which they each serve, it was really about just getting back into our libraries and getting those books back in everybody's hands and getting people back into their meeting rooms and into their routine of coming to visit us for programs like story time and tutoring and whatever they were using their library for before. They were just so eager to get back to it.
Now, the grand openings have been such a big deal that even county commissioners have been attending. Why is that so important?
Well, each of the libraries that we were renovating, some of them hadn't been touched since they were first opened, in some cases. So it's just been such an important thing to each of the neighborhoods in which they're located. The commissioners know the value of these libraries to their constituents. We know the value of these libraries to our patrons. And I think everyone just wanted to celebrate that and celebrate just having something so beautiful and new and ready to use and user-friendly and great technology, and just get everyone the same resources in every part of the county.
Now, during this process, the Southwest Library was renamed the Evelyn G. Lowry Library at Southwest. Please tell our audience how that name came to be.
Well, the library that was formerly known as Southwest, now the Evelyn G. Lowry Library at Cascade, was really a culmination of community gathering together to make the request and to see it through. We have a process for any building that is in consideration of being renamed, and Evelyn G. Lowry was just obviously a very big force in the community, but also very committed to education, to reading, and that's kind of what the library stands for. So it just made sense. And the community supported it. There was obviously very widespread support for this. And after going through the process of gathering different members of the community to make the final decision, the board, had to support it. It was just such an important change for us. So we're really excited to be able to rename that one at the same time that we reopened it and celebrate it with the Lowry family as well as the community around there.
Now, what kind of update can you give us on one of the bigger projects in this group of projects, that being the Central Library?
The Central Library renovation project is coming along wonderfully. So we are still expecting for construction to wrap up next fall of 2020. September timeframe, September-ish, we should say, because as we know, with construction, anything can change between now and then. It's a huge project, but it's coming along really well. They've started, working on some of the exterior of the building. They've made a ton of progress on the interior, so we're just really excited to get that library finished up and reopened at the end of 2020.
Now, once Central reopens, all of the renovations will in fact be complete, correct?
Once Central Library reopens, that will be our final renovation, and it will be our final library to reopen, and we'll be back to serving the community in all 34 libraries in the system.
So what happens next for the library system after all these renovations have been completed?
Hopefully our production team can take a breather for just a moment, but more importantly, what we'll be back to is the business of library services. We have been working on these renovations for such a long time, between the first phase and where we created new libraries, and the second phase where we renovated libraries, that we've really just been doing double duty, doing library services, working on project management and construction. So it'll be nice to be able to really concentrate on serving through our libraries, the communities, expanding our outreach efforts, and really going back to what we do best, which is providing library services to the community.
And what kind of feedback have you heard about library services that have been provided to patrons while their own library is closed?
So, understandably, citizens don't want to have to leave their home library. People love their libraries, and we all know that you have one library that you visit, and that's the one you want to keep going to. So, there's been a little bit of resistance to having to visit a different branch, but we've tried to offer services at neighboring libraries so that folks can still get everything they need at a different branch. But we've also been trying to really increase our outreach efforts, so that if we're able to provide some sort of pop-up library in the neighborhood nearby a closed branch, you can perhaps go there to get a library card, check out a book, learn more about other programs, and visit your favorite librarian at a local park or bookstore or other kind of shop in the neighborhood.
If you could, share any final thoughts with us, please.
Sure. I'd love to share that as you start to hear about your local library reopening, please come and join us. It's a part of the celebration, is celebrating it with each of the communities in which we serve. We want to get the patrons that have been waiting for the libraries to reopen to come and join in the fun and celebrate the reopening of the branch. And make sure you come and check out a lot of books. That's what's most important, is we want to make sure our circulation numbers are as high as can be, and that everybody shows the value of their library and shows how important it is to each of their communities.
Once again, great information from you. Claudia Strange, thank you again for joining us here on Fulton at Work.
Thanks so much for having me today. I appreciate it, Daryl.
We're back to wrap up the show after this short break, so please stay with us.
One in 4 women will experience domestic violence. Domestic violence goes beyond physical abuse. Abusers will emotionally isolate victims, cut off their financial resources, and threaten to harm their loved ones. When a victim does decide to leave, she's frequently faced with the challenge of a complex legal system and a confrontation with her abuser in court. That's why the Atlanta Volunteer Lawyers Foundation created the Safe and Stable Families program to help survivors navigate the legal system to permanently break free from their abusers. This family-centered program provides survivors with free legal consultation, safety planning, and referrals to other much-needed assistance, all on the same day they arrive at the courthouse. The program even provides attorneys to stand with survivors in their legal proceedings. AVLF clears the barriers imposed by abusers so that survivors have the resources they need to see the legal process through to the end. Because when survivors have legal assistance, they have a real chance to gain the stability they need to live free of violence. To learn more or to find an opportunity to volunteer, visit avlf.org.
That's all of our time. Thanks for joining us here at Fulton at Work, and a very special thank you to each of our guests. Now, we want to connect with you online, so please check us out on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can also watch this show or any other FGTV program at any time on the FGTV YouTube channel. I'm Daryl Carver, and we'll see you next time.